You got me? Well, good evening. We are going to get rolling here. Tonight we are going to finish, because I'm going to run the clock here. We're going to finish secular humanism, and then we're going to do Marxism. Marxism will be fairly fast because it's just kind of stolen secular humanism, and there's some political stuff thrown in. So that's really how we get to... I gave away my packet. So let's pray and we'll get started. Father, the evidence of your goodness is all over our lives, and we are so grateful for that. So still our hearts, give us energy to think deeply tonight, and to think about the effect of the gospel on people who do not believe. Give us wisdom and insight together, we pray. Amen. Okay, we are going to start at secular humanism biology. Their view there is what we call Darwinian evolution. And as soon as you ever tag Darwinian to evolution, that is implied that it's atheistic evolution. Okay? In Christianity, we talked a little bit about theistic evolution. The idea, there are certain Christians who believe that God created, put things in motion, and then stepped back. And now the process of evolution takes its course. That's what we call theistic. God started it. Okay? When you see the term Darwinian evolution, that is atheistic, purely atheistic. What's that? No. So it says, man is a result of a purposeless natural process that did not have him in mind. He was not planned. He is a state of matter, a form of life, an animal, and a species of the order primates, akin nearly or remotely to all of life, and indeed to all that is material or stuff. Okay? This here. Now, drop down to mid of the paper where it says evolution is a fortress people hide in. This is, I think, where we stopped last week. Stephen Gould said the absence of the fossil evidence for intermediary stages between major transition in organic design has been a persistent and nagging problem for gradualistic accounts for evolution. Now, Charles Darwin said this: if the fossil record does not bear me out, my whole theory falls. And what he's talking about is macroevolution. So look down about 3 lines, and we're going to see Microevolution means it's a belief that small adaptive changes happen within species. Well, we had trouble with getting it. I don't know what to do then. We had trouble with the flash drive with Sean earlier. He built a new computer, so I don't know, hon. So make sure you have one of those then. Maybe Dustin can help us out. So microevolution is within a species. I had a buddy who left during high school from Chicago, went to Florida. About 4 or 5 years later, he came back to visit during the winter. He stayed about 3 days and went home. He was so cold because that's adaptation. His body had gotten so used to the warmth that he couldn't, the cold was even colder than it was. Okay, that's what we call micro. Now, macro is the belief that small adaptive changes are capable of accumulating over time to produce brand new species. Okay? Now, this is what Darwin said, if the fossil record doesn't bear this out, I'm in trouble. So macroevolution would say, let's say we have a cat, and it's a cat, and it's a cat, and maybe it's got longer hair and bigger paws, and da-da-da, but all of a sudden, it's something brand new. Okay? Now, this stage in here is where we should find, let's say it became a dog, just for illustration's sake. If it moved from a cat to a dog, there's a period of time that we should find all sorts of fossils that are halves and quarters and three-quarters and two-thirds of something different. We have none. And that's why Stephen Gould, who I just quoted here, said a couple times, if my choice is to believe in God and a theory that we know doesn't work, I'm going to take the theory every time. So understand, if somebody says something like that to you, that is not science. That's philosophy. Because I'm just making some decisions based on assumptions, not scientific theory. Okay? I was telling Dave, Dennis Prager has a great, it was about 5-6 minutes long. He had a conversation with a friend of his who's an atheist. It was just loaded up today on PragerU. It's worth watching because he talks about some of this. Okay. Okay. Let's flip to psychology. Now, the term for what a secular humanist would believe there is what we call monistic. So that's the one-sided, because back to our circles, they just believe in stuff. They don't believe in the spiritual. No soul, okay? So, oh, she got it. Or somebody got it. Wonderful. So a secular humanist only believes in this, so they're monistic, mono, okay? Monistic, what we call self-actualization. In a nutshell, this is what it is. You will make yourself what you make yourself. Okay? You're totally in charge. There is no God. Who is God? You. Me. I'm God of my life. Okay? And so I will make myself what I choose to make myself. Now, it says this psychology focuses on man's inherent goodness. See a problem with that? Okay. Christianity comes and says, no, we are not inherently good. We are inherently sinful. And it predicts that every individual can achieve mental health through the fulfillment of physical or material needs. This is self-actualization. Monism means that man's only body, no soul, mind, or conscience exist. If man is only matter, then his actions are simply the result of mechanical impulses. This notion, called behaviorism, is inconsistent because it directly contradicts the humanist atheistic theology and naturalistic philosophy, which claim that man is a master of his fate. So what is being said there is Now, oh, I can do this. With the exception of you two, but you're really close. And you were there last week. You guys sit in the same spot every week. Not you. No, last week you were there. Okay? But you guys, your behavior, most of you sit pretty well in the same spots every Sunday. It's funny because we sit in that back over there, okay? So we can watch all of you. And we watch, it's really funny when people come in and they go like this. Oh, there's somebody in the spot. I'll have to come to second service now. Okay. Behaviorism is, B.F. Skinner is a one. And then Pavlov kind of took that, and then did the dog test. You guys familiar with that? Ring the bell, dogs salivate, and because there's always food, and then you take the food away, and they just keep behaving the same way. It's behaviorism, okay? Because we're animals. And we know this. We do this with our dogs that don't love us. We do this with our cats that are from H-E-double hockey sticks. God did not make cats, you know that. We did that. We did that one. Don't blame it on him. We can domesticate our animals and stuff, and we can get them to, like, hold their bodily functions until we let them outside. That's behaviorism. You haven't taught them anything. They're responding to external stimuli. Okay? Now, before I go on, we as Christians, we do believe in a level of this. If you've ever had a child and you've got them to brush your teeth, there is a level of behaviorism there. You're providing some outside stimuli to get them to do this. And after a while, it becomes, you don't even think about it. You kind of get up in the morning, brushing hair, and, okay? So there is a level, but we're not animals. And what Christianity would say different from an atheistic behaviorist is that you're still responsible for your behavior. Now, atheistics, pushed to the edge, this is why it's in here, pushed to the edge of their philosophy, they want to say that, but they don't want to say that. Do you see how they're caught either way? If I, as an atheist, say, well, I'm really not, I just went blank on the word. For my behavior. Responsible for my behavior. Well, chaos can happen, and I can't say it's right or wrong. Oh, wait a minute. That's happening in our world. Do you ever wonder why there's people that are silent on the issue of behavior? Is it right or wrong? Is it good or evil? Okay? And you will, if you have enough conversations, you will hear this. Well, who am I to say, Dave, who am I to tell you that was wrong? Now, it's kind of a fake arrogance, or a fake humility, because really what I'm saying is, I'm not doing it to you because I want you to stay out of my stuff. Because I'm the master of my universe. So they get in trouble with the behaviorism because they want to use it, back to our term epiphenomenon. If I can get the right society together, I'll produce the right people. That's secular humanism. That's why politics are so important. That's why power is so important. That's why people in particular roles is so important. Why? Because we want to make you the way we think you should be. Christianity, we said, was that society is an epiphenomenon of the people. So if you put a bunch of good people together, quote, good, you're probably going to have a fairly decent society. If you put a bunch of evil people together, murderers and thieves and da-da, you're probably going to have a bad society. Okay? So in their psychology, they are totally, if you can create the right society, you create the right humanity. Okay? Now, philosophically, we're not going to get into politics, but philosophically, that's what I look at as I listen to people talk in America. I'm hearing epiphenomenon talk. If we would just change society, there'd be no poor people. I watched it on TV today. I don't remember what city, but they are no longer, LA, they are no longer, you don't have to post bail. Okay. Why? And they can't even hold prior stuff against me now and go, this guy really is bad, let's put him in jail. Can't do that. Why? Because it's not my fault. It's society's fault. And all of you people that make $100,000, if you would just share and give your money away, there'd be no poor people. And because you guys aren't good, and we're going to help you. We're going to tax you. See, that's how all this begins to fit together, especially in a secular society, which we're kind of headed to if something doesn't happen. Okay, secular humanism, sociology. So we talked about with Christianity, it was kind of the family, church, state. They are looking for a non-traditional, world state, ethical society. Now don't get fooled by that. The ethics are driven by whoever's in power. And whoever's in power can create the right society and then create you. If they want to make you be quiet, we can make you be quiet. We just put external stimuli on you, and it will keep you quiet. Right now, we would call this cancel culture. Okay? If you say something we don't like, we'll get you fired, we'll get your business closed, we'll go after your kids, we'll go after your bank, we'll put your name out there, and you can't get into restaurants, you can't, okay. That's external stimuli. And if I put enough of that on you, most of us would break. I read an article today on how the cancel culture has split Christianity to the point that there's a high percentage of Christians now that are doing it. Oh, you're too Christian. You got to stop. You're giving us all a bad name. Because I told that person about Jesus? Yes. Let them make up their own mind. See, that type of, that's stimuli. Okay? Do that to a kid who cares about what his friends say. You've just zipped them up. Okay? Don't ever put anything on Facebook, because heaven forbid they'd shut you down. Okay? It's that type of feel. So it says humanists use sociology to explain the huge gulf between their view that man is capable of perfection and the real world of evil. They say civilization and culture shape the individual. There's the epiphenomenon. Thus, man is evil primarily because his cultural and social environment are evil. Highlight that. No fault of their own. Okay? Society and culture have influenced humanity's actions and have therefore stifled this inherent goodness. Okay? One of the most stifling of human institutions is the family. And if you want to write this, it's because it has structure and definition. Now think about that. We're losing definition in almost everything we think about today. Sex. Talking about sex. Gender is masculine, feminine. Sex is male, female. There's two of them. That would get me fired from just about any high school, and Christian high school maybe, in the United States, for making that statement. Why? Because of structure and definition, in their view, what have I just done? By doing what? I've alienated them by doing what? Yeah, but because I tell the truth, what happens? What would they say I'm doing? I am invalidating them. It's the worst sin you can do. You just invalidated me and my marriage and my views and my whatever, okay? Government-sponsored education provides the most desirable method for abolishing outdated social institutions and ensuring the development of a free society. So if I get in power and I am secular and I don't like what the church says, I just legislate it out. And sometimes we allow it. We allowed them to shut I've got friends who still have not gone back to church since March because their church won't open, because the state has legislated things along the way, and what they thought was good in August, they still think is good, and those people are mad at churches who are meeting. Okay? That's all because of legislation. It's all because we get external stimuli that even makes the church respond. Okay, let's talk about law then, because that's huge in what we just talked about. Positive law. Basically, in a nutshell, this is what that means. Those in power make law, and that law now becomes truth. Now, it isn't truth, but it is, because those in power have legislated it. Okay, that's what we call positive law. So if you want to know in a secular society what is right and wrong, you don't look to your conscience, you don't look to the church, you look to the government. And they will tell you what's right and wrong. Okay? It's called positive law. It says the state is given sovereignty, which is entirely rational because there is no higher power to be taken into consideration. Just as man is seen as the final word in ethics, the world state is seen as the only source for legal truth. The humanist believes that crime is more the fault of the social order than an inherent flaw in the criminal. People in the inner city steal because of their situation, not because that they have a flaw. That's what that means. And so if you want to change the stealing, the town I grew up in, if you want to change the 1,500 murders or so in the last 18 months in Chicago, you don't do anything to the criminals. You change systemic racism. Okay, see that term? That right there is external stimuli. If somebody came in here and said, you know what, we have heard stories about Bridgewood, and we think you guys have systemic racism here. You are like 99% white. See how easy that is? And that's not a lie. I mean, we have some people of color, but I bet you we're 90 plus white. When did that become wrong? Became wrong because of positive law. Everything right now is about racism in America. It doesn't matter what it is. Yeah.
There, the slide for us up there about education. There is a bill in the State House in Minnesota right now that's in committee that they're trying to get out before the full legislation, saying that every Minnesota child has the right to state-sponsored education, which would invalidate homeschooling. Any other type, if they wanted to push, would if you kept them home and homeschooled them, or any other type of education, charter school, anything like that, then you deprive them of their constitutional right to
Yeah.
state education.
It's going to get to a point where, and I learned this pretty clear when I had a daughter get sick in college. I think she was 18. And they wouldn't tell me what was wrong with her, because she had gone to the doctor on campus. And they said, well, no, she's 18. You don't have a right to that. I'm the one writing the check to you. And I lost. So I had to go to her to say, can you let me see that? Oh, yeah. I said, well, you have to sign something because he won't let me see it. Wait. No. Positive law. That's what you, well, but that, no, let's not go there. Let's, I want you to understand this, because you guys are getting lost in the woods because you're too close to the trees. The reason that would be racist is because of positive law. those in power have deemed it so. Okay? So we as a church have to understand the rules in which we're playing. It's not a game, but we've used sports before. The game of sharing our faith in evangelism. There are some rules that as United States citizens we have to abide by. Now, there are some that some of us would go, I'm not abiding by that one. What's the term for that? Objector. Yeah, conscientious objector. But understand this. There will be a price to pay. Now, as soon as I say that, I've been listening to some tapes all day on suffering because I'm preaching Sunday. There will be a time, the scriptures, they forecast this for every generation. There will be a time that you will be in trouble for being a disciple of Jesus. But just remember this. Quote, just remember, they hated me first. And if you decide to put his brand on you, it will come. In fact, the scriptures say, don't be surprised by the fiery ordeal that you find yourself in. Why? Because I told you it was going to happen. Okay. Paul thought he was in the last days. I pray right now like we're in the last days. I have no idea how long God will tarry. But you and I, we do live within a realm, and it's becoming more and more, of positive law. So you and I have to think deeply, pray deeply, read the scriptures diligently to find out for each of us our convictions of if they come and knock at my door, how am I going to respond? Each of you should be doing that. Because if you wait to try to put something together when they knock at your door, you'll lose. You won't be able to stand. It's interesting in the Greek, it says, and when you put on the full armor of God, stand. And after you have stand, that's the way it's written, stand. Okay, I got it the first time. No, you have no idea. The fiery arrows of the devil, stand. How? The word, prayer, all those things in Ephesians 6. Okay? So that's what positive law, that's how it affects those that aren't in power. Or, even more, those that don't agree with it. See, and each of us have to, I think we're kind of living in a time where we're going to have to do more and more of trying to figure out what we're going to do in response to things. Okay, politics. World government. Okay. Now, if that doesn't sound like some of the New Testament and Antichrist stuff, humanists believe the world government is the next logical step in man's evolutionary road to utopia, as man is now conscious of evolution and is responsible to direct it. Now, I want you to catch what just happened there. Darwinian evolution says this: non-directed, purposeless process. Non-directed, wait a minute, no. Now we can direct it. Okay? If I want a blonde-headed kid, 6'4" Swede, any woman who's still fertile can go to a sperm bank and pick out some sperm from Sven. No cancer, no diabetes, thank you, love. Nothing. And what happens is you can begin to build stronger people. Now we're going, oh, great. Okay, now, let me show you the dark side of that. And it's happening. Do you know why many young couples now are not having children on their own? They are going to sperm banks and looking through because, I'm going to be real careful because this touches all of us here. So that we can weed out little guys like David. See where I'm going? We can begin social engineering, and we can weed out people who have diabetes, people who have cancers, people who have had heart stuff, people who have had alcoholism. We begin to social engineer, and we have stepped into the process. You see that? Or, even worse, I can clone myself. Now that we have groups in Canada, we have groups in Europe already that tell us that they have cloned animals. There's a group in Canada, I'm trying to remember their name, can't remember it, I'll try to find it for you. They have said that they have actually cloned humanity. Okay? We have stepped into the process now. So if you create a clone who swears all the time, did you know if you push him off a cliff and kill him, they'll throw you in jail for making an obscene clone fall? I had to throw that one in. Okay, but seriously though, secular humanists believe that we can now step in and tweak stuff. We have genetically altered what? Cows, milk. You name it, we probably have genetically altered it. Trying to weed out stuff, make people stronger. Okay? That's what they mean by that humanity has stepped into the process. Okay, as a goal of humanism is world peace, and a global state is the best to achieve it. The state, directed properly, plays a central role in guiding man. Julian Huxley, who was Aldous Huxley's brother, Aldous Huxley wrote Brave New World, to have any success in fulfilling his destiny as the controller or agent of future evolution on Earth, man must become one single inter-thinking group with one general framework of ideas. There's another thing that scares me about governments, and especially in America, seeing some of the talk and philosophy that I'm hearing from these guys. This is where they want to move us. Correct. Now, we're going to move into Marxism in a minute, and that is a problem for secular people, because the best I can do is put stimuli on you to make you, and if I can't get you on board, then I'll cancel you, okay? In Marxism, I just get rid of you. You're just an animal, see? Okay, last one here, or last two, I guess. Economics. Secular humanism moves toward socialism, because if we take care of the community, the people will be okay. At least that's how it's written. It's never happened. And don't bring up Sweden, because they clearly, as you look at them modernly, they clearly are not fully socialist. So people still own property, okay? Humanists believe in some type of a socialist economy, because this is more consistent with the belief that man is an evolving creature who would become capable of planning the perfect economy. Man, who must save himself, must be in absolute control of all the aspects of his universe. Thus, the world's economic system must be strictly controlled through central planning. See, that's what governments, when they get this far, they actually believe that you and I are dumb. Okay? Give you an example. Betty and I have a great guy in Texas who does our finances. And let me tell you, he's making us a lot more money than what Social Security is making right now. The government requires that we pay Social Security, and there's basically no interest being made on it now. But yet they don't have to do it. And they don't trust me enough to let me keep my Social Security and invest it. Okay? The lie is, you guys can't do it, so we're going to do it for you. Everybody in power that moves towards a socialist agenda. And the United States has always been somewhat. I would say Social Security is a socialist principle. Okay? but it's not going to work. Okay, the last thing. For Christianity, history was all about the resurrection. The past is about the resurrection was about it, and our future is all about the resurrection. Okay? For a secular humanist, it's called historical evolution. Humanists view Earth's history from a strictly naturalistic vantage point, meaning there's no supernatural influence. The history of man and the universe is the history of evolutionary activity. Propelled without design by blind natural selection, history has moved in an upward direction from simplicity to complexity. Some humanists view artificial intelligence, the computer, as the next step in historical evolution. There is no end, so it drives the worship of Earth and humanity. Okay? So if you are a secular humanist, you are atheistic. This is all you have. Okay? So even more than, in some ways, even more than Christians who should take care of this earth because we're stewards of it, for an atheist, I better take care of this. We don't have anything else. I remember the first time we started going green at Minnehaha, and they were forcing us to do recycling. And I went, oh boy, this is going to go over well. The kids bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. And it was only me who had trouble with it. And when the kids are like, they'd see me like throw a bottle or something in the garbage, they're like, why don't you recycle? I said, because I read the Bible. It's like, what are you talking about? And I said this in the teachers' meeting once too. I said, well, the scripture tells me that God is going to destroy this place next time. Not a Mountain Dew can. That made the school newspaper in an editorial how rotten I was because I didn't buy into this recycling plan. It's not that I didn't buy into it. It's just that my theology told me that I'm okay with recycling. But my recycling is not going to save this world. I don't worship this thing. See? And even something like that in a Christian institution, you can be an outsider because you go, well, and I was somewhat goofing around, plus I like to be a contrarian. But I got the response I thought I'd get. See, you're evil because you don't worship the earth. You don't want to keep it and sustain it. I don't have the power to do that. Whatever, 8 billion of us don't have the power to do that. God is in control of this, not me. Okay, any questions on secular humanism? It can be. Yeah. Okay, let's grab that big packet then. Did you pick one of these up, Randy? Oh, okay. There's a big one back there if you want one. Okay, so everything we just talked about is the foundation of Marxism and Leninism. Marxism is Karl Marx. Okay, I think we talked about him early on, and you're going to hear the name Engels. It's Frederick Engels. Frederick Engels, his dad was I don't think he was Russian. What was he? Do you know Frederick Engels? Where was he from? His dad had a bunch of factories during the early and mid 1800s, and he hated the way his dad took the workers, made millions on them, paid them pennies. Okay, so he was taking a trip, and him and Marx actually met. And everything that Engels was feeling in terms of angst, Marx had already been writing about in different newspapers. And they met, they went to London, and they literally spent the rest of their lives together. And Marx actually died in Frederick's home. He cared for him till he died. The angst of the role of the proletariat, the working class, drove these guys batty. Combined with those in power who were making money off of this lower class, drove them crazy and made them angry. So out of that comes what we call Marxism, communism. And so they begin to take all of secular humanism and put the power of politics and propaganda to it. And you'll see how this works. So a Marxist, Lenin is V.I. Lenin from Russia, who was in power kind of before Stalin and a little bit at the same time until things fell apart there. He took the political stuff that Marx and Engels put together and brought it to Russia, and it was exactly what they wanted. And you'll see why this fits together. So it says, Marx was an atheist before he became a socialist. Engels and Lenin agreed that religion was a drug or spiritual booze, and it must be combated. Now here's why it must be combated. Let's just say you're a secular and atheist, and you're working hard, 16, 17 hours in a factory all day long, and if I aggravate you and push you and maybe prod you to shoot your boss, you'll probably have no qualms with it, because as a secular humanist, you're your own boss. And the right thing is to do what's best for you. Okay? Now, Randy's one of these Christians, that sit in the back of the room and yell, "Yes, Lord," and all these things. Now, if I go to Randy and I start putting the pressure on him and trying to prod him and push him to shoot his boss, what do you think Randy's going to do? I'm really making you suffer. What are you going to do? He's going to suffer. And he's going to take it. Because he read in the scripture, hey, when they do it to you, remember, they did it to him first. And so Randy is okay with his situation. Ellie, right? Ellie's not. His religion is a spiritual booze to him. It makes him comfortable. And you're going to see, if I'm in control in a communist country, I can't have you comfortable. I've got to keep you on edge all the time. Okay? Now again, I'm not trying to be political. I'm trying to point out how important this stuff is and how you can see it relevant. How many of you get a warm, fuzzy feeling every time you turn on a news program? Constant angst. Constant, what are they going to do next? Okay, you see how that keeps you on edge? And you, in the midst of that, have to decide, am I going to be on edge and go down and burn something? Or am I going to go, you know what? Jesus is still on the throne. God's sitting on the throne, and Jesus is at his right hand. And you know what? John 10 says that my Father has me right there. And no one is able to snatch me out of my Father's hand. See, spiritual booze. I'm going to go, I'm going to keep praying. I'm going to keep doing what's right. I'm going to try to live a life that other people see and glorify my Father in heaven. I'm going to try to do that. But you're not going to egg me on to go burn anything. We can't have spiritual booze in a communist society because of what I'm trying to get you to do. So it said, to them, atheism put into practice meant a forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions. Now again, sad to say, we're seeing this in America. Everything that once was has, in a matter of about 18, 20 months, become wrong. And so therefore we will burn statues, we will tear stuff down, we will rename schools, we will, and you fill in the blanks, because you guys live in the same world I live in. Okay, it's relevant. We can't have things the way they used to be. Why? Because the way things used to be, there were certain people in power that we can't have in power anymore. And we will do anything we can to make them disappear. We will lie, cheat, steal, falsehoods, you name it. Okay? Everything is game. Why? Because in communism, the end result is the only thing that matters. So we're going to talk about the ends always justify the means. To the tune of 1 to 200 million people being killed in the name of this in the 1900s. That wasn't wrong. In Marxist countries, that was not wrong. The Communist Party has not deviated from its founding fathers' attitudes toward God or religion. This explains the persecution of the church in countries with a communist government. Okay, philosophy. This is 2 pages. This is the price. This is worth the price of this whole class. This thing changed my life in terms of how I understood human behavior and politics, really. Okay? It's called the dialectic, is the way they call it. It's what's called dialectical materialism. Now, materialism is another name for naturalism, okay? Stuff. That's all there is. We are just animals. The only thing that makes us somewhat special is we're the highest on the evolutionary chain right now. Although Stephen Gould disagreed with that. He said bacteria was more important than we were. I mean, if you think about that, there, okay. The dialectic says that in everything there's a thesis, the way things are, then there's an antithesis, it's an opposition to the way things are, and then there's a synthesis. Okay? Now go to the next page and I'll explain it to you. Okay, so we're looking at this diagram now. Okay? So, let me use an illustration to explain this to you. Okay, the thesis, the way things are. iPhone 1. How many of you had one? Any of you? Did you? What do you got now? Why didn't you stick with your one? Okay, iPhone 1. It lasted about a year. And then what came out? The synthesis, or the antithesis. iPhone 2. It was better. And kids revolted. Mom and Dad, I gotta have the iPhone 2. The iPhone 1 is archaic. Okay? So there's a battle, there's a clash. So they got the kid the iPhone 2. That's the synthesis. That's the result of the battle. Until about 12 months later. Actually, it was never 12 months. It was about 8, 9 months later. What happened? iPhone 3 came out. It's better than 1 and 2. And the kid said, Dad, all my friends got 3s. And there was a battle. And they finally broke down, as all parents do, and they get them the 3. The 3 is the new synthesis. It's here for a while. It becomes the thesis until number 4 comes out. You see what I'm doing? So there's always something in power. And then as soon as I can egg her on long enough to do something, this group stays in power. But as soon as I can get Ellie to step over the line, and there's a clash between these two, now, she may not win the first time. She may even get killed. Big deal. She's just an animal. I'm going to go over here and get Gail. And this time, Gail's going to pop and go after. And this time, he's going to bring enough people with him. He's going to win. These guys are out. This group, proletariats, this is the bourgeoisie, bourgeois, whichever you want to call it. The proletariats win, so they become the synthesis, and they stay in power for a while until what? Another group comes up and says, oh, enough of these guys. Okay, now this can be a phone, this can be a group of people, this can be power, this can be control, this could be, you name it. Whatever it is, we got no food here in Russia. It would be better to be dead than to do this. Let's go after her. So that's why I've taken most of her food away, and anything she gets, she has to stand in line for 6 hours. every day. And I take all of her hope away. And it's on purpose, because I want her to revolt. Because the dialectic doesn't work unless there's a revolt. And we got people all over this country going out and doing dumb stuff, and we're revolting and da-da-da. And I'm like, that's not really a revolt. There's a little pockets of disagreement. A revolt in America would look like if you said to the NRA, Tuesday morning we're coming to all your homes and we're taking your guns away. Now there's a revolt. And they would win, because the other side doesn't have any guns. That's just an illustration. A revolt isn't a little bitty thing. A revolt is a revolt. And they usually clash, and many, 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 many die. Or they win. And all these guys, if you're in a communist society, these people die. Okay? So that's how the dialectic. Now, when Marx and Engels got a hold of Charles Darwin in 1859 and began to see, oh my goodness, it's evolution. Now, I'm going to package a lot together here. Remember Stephen Gould, Harvard paleontologist? He came up with the theory we talked about, punctuated equilibrium. Here's evolution. Here's how it goes. You see it? And then all of a sudden, boom, there's a period which can be like millions and millions of years. Punctuated equilibrium is not 3 days. It's millions instead of billions. Okay? And it happens, and then we go back into a period of slow. That punctuated equilibrium, when Marx and Engels read that, they went, there's our revolt. Slow, 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 slow. Boom, revolt. New species came. Does that make sense? So that became the philosophical basis for their political system. It's okay, we want people to get into power, but for a limited time. And philosophically, the idea is, these people are communists, Marxists, so they want these people to revolt, right? Right? That's the dialectic. We're in charge of the dialectic right now. We want them to revolt. You never see that. Stalin didn't want the people to revolt. Lenin didn't. The guys in China right now don't want the people to rise up and revolt and go to capitalism. That's the fallacy. What does power do? It corrupts. And you give absolute power to somebody, it corrupts absolutely. That's a major flaw. It's humanity. That's the major flaw. We are not inherently good. You would not want me to be your communist leader, because I know me. That would be so bad. I could get back at anybody who's ever done anything wrong to me. Now, how many of you want to be the leader? Okay. You see what this does? So you can have communism written out on paper and look beautiful. And people will say, well, it just never has been fully worked out. No, everybody's died already. You can't get to the end. Okay? So philosophically, atheism and evolution were the backbone to Marxism and to Lenin. Okay? Let's go to the next page. All right. So morality is driven by the proletariat. So I said this before. The ends justifies the means. So if we have our thesis, let's pick Stalin, okay? No, let's pick Lenin. Lenin was in power until this rising star of Joseph Stalin. And the guy still lays in state, doesn't he? Doesn't Stalin still lay in state? They love the guy, okay? So in the clash there, Who determined right and wrong? Always the proletariat. That's just how it's written. The proletariat. Any means by which they can win is good. Any means that does not result in a win, it's not bad. You just have to go back and retry it. It just failed. You're not bad. You just take another shot. You keep taking shots until you win and become the new synthesis, which then after a while you'll be the thesis. And once you get up here, the alpha wolf, everybody starts taking shots at you. And it's just a matter of time till you get a little old and crotchety and the young bucks take you out. Natural selection. You see how this is fitting philosophically? They built everything around evolution. So Marxist ethics don't come from a sense of absolute rules, but from the cause of communism. Whatever furthers the cause, that's right and moral. Now just take a breath and think about our country for the last 6 months. And I'm not just talking about government. I'm talking about people. I'm talking about cancel culture. I'm talking about types of TV shows. There's like, we saw a commercial the other night for Discovery Plus. 55,000 new shows. If I watched 2,000 hours a year, that's a full-time job. I'd have to live 10 lifetimes to watch what's on Disney. Plus, all of it filters right in like this. We watch it dead. I have not watched a Netflix show or series in my life. And my kids will talk about, oh yeah, we did the Netflix thing. We watched 40 episodes this week. Did you get up and go to the bathroom once? How do you do that? You're brain dead. How do they speak to us and provide external stimuli to us? It's mostly in that box. If you watch anything but golf and Guy Fieri, it's propaganda. Now, I'm not overstepping. But next time you turn on the TV and watch, I hope I pop into your brain and you go, I wonder what David would do. Look at your bracelet. Look at your new bracelet. Because this stuff just deadens us. And then subliminal stuff gets in. Oh, this is okay. This one's not, that's not too bad. It's not murder. That's how communism works. Okay? It just works itself in, and it says, only what's good for communism is right. Anything else, let it go. The only thing moral, the only ethics you have to worry about is furthering this socialism, this communism, and this governmental control. Now, unfortunately, man, we are living in the middle of it. Philosophically. I don't know where it's headed. I can take some guesses. But once you step on the road of socialism, socialism is never meant to end in socialism. It's always meant to end in communism with the takeover of private property. Okay? Whatever hinders its advance in social or human evolution is morally evil. The killing fields of Cambodia, the Soviet Union, and Ukraine, as well as mass murders in China, were the practical results of proletariat or class morality. If it furthered the cause, it was good. Okay? Now, biology, I've already kind of talked about this. This is the punctuated equilibrium. So they took evolution, they saw these rapid expansions from Stephen Gould, who made the theory of punctuated equilibrium, and they said, there's our revolts. And they built a whole political system on punctuated equilibrium. So if we can cause punctuated equilibrium in society, it will, it's kind of like a slingshot forward. And that's why it became huge for them. Because it was a basis for everything that they were looking at. So we've already done that. So let's look at psychology then. So then, monistic Pavlovian now, behaviorism. So we're moving from Skinner to Pavlov. And basically, it's the same thing we've already talked about. If I can put external societal pressures on you, no food, it will make you do things. It will make you do things you never thought you would do just so your kids could eat. And most of you would do it. I remember having exchange students stay with me from, it's Slovakia now. It used to be what? Czechoslovakia? Yeah. And he would tell us stories that when they left communism, his grandfather would just sit and weep. But his dad and his mom were like, yes. Okay. And why? Because his grandfather didn't even have to, and this is what he said, his grandfather didn't even have to think. He just walked around like this and did what people told him. Now, I will tell you, that's one reason I like teaching. They rang a bell when I had to be in my class. They rang a bell for me to stop. They rang a bell for me to go eat. They rang a bell for me to get in my car and go home. We got done with school at 2:55. At 2:50, all the kids are putting their books away. What are you doing? Well, class is about to end. Yeah, I got 5 minutes. I'm still talking. Get those books back out. What were they doing? They were responding to the external stimuli that they'd been, if they were seniors, they've been doing it for 12, 13 years. Ding-a-ling-a-ling, and then they walk to the next class. Ding-a-ling-a-ling, oh, we got to go back to Elliot's class. Okay. You can create incredible efficiency with external stimuli. Okay? That's why people are loving this remote stuff. Unless you work for my wife. There's no one's on you all the time. There's freedom. There's a lot of attractiveness to it. For the younger kids, I would hate it. I would hate sitting and looking at a computer screen for 10 hours. You do the same thing, don't you? It would kill me. You might as well kill me, because I'm probably not getting on board with it. Oh, that's okay. We'll replace you with somebody else younger and who believes in our story. There we are. We're right in the middle of communism. We are all replaceable. If you can't respond to the stimuli, I just replace you. Okay? That's what Pavlov was all about. Stimuli. And man, the communists looked at it and said, wow. We'll shut TV off. The only TV you get is me. How would you like that? One TV station, me, telling you what you can't do. You get one parade a year, and I'm going to run all my tanks and my army guys through the town, but it's not shown on TV. Michael Gao, a foreign exchange student of mine, fought with me and my daughter after school one day because I made mention of Tiananmen Square. That never happened. I said, what do you mean? We showed him videos and pictures and people talking and giving. That didn't happen. I said, Michael, how can you say it didn't happen? And he said these words. They never put that on TV. One channel. I control everything you see, hear, where you travel, where you don't, where you work, where you will live. I control it all. And I can put all sorts of parameters on you to make you either get on board with me or you're going to disappear. And no one's going to bother looking for you because they know where you went. Okay? Now, let's look at sociology. This all just kind of fits together. So we'll go back to Randy because he's all this Jesus freak stuff and he's got his spiritual booze going and he won't get aggravated and mad and he loves suffering because his Savior suffered for him. So this little suffering is nothing compared to what Jesus suffered for you, right? Right? Yeah, I got to get rid of you. You're trouble for me. Because he's watching you. He's going, oh, he's getting away with that stuff. Well, maybe I can do it. See, I can't have it. I can't. You're like yeast. So I got to get rid of you. Okay? And what caused a person like you to exist? First is the home. That's church. That's marriage. That's all those things. All those institutions. That's what they produce. People who love Jesus and are committed to their families and their churches and stuff. So I got to get rid of you. And the easiest way to do that, even if you're not going to get on board, I'm going to abolish all those institutional things from the past. And I either just wipe you out, or I just let you, like an old buffalo, just wander off from the crowd and die in a valley someplace. Okay? So it depends on the character of those in power. Do I just kill you, or do I let you, and I just keep pushing you along with new people? Okay? That's why education is huge in the state for communism. Because I was going to pick on Dave, but I don't know. I'll pick on you. You just retired, so you're old. It would be hard to change your mind on a few things, right? I mean, old dog, new tricks doesn't work too well. Okay. I'm not going to waste my time trying to recondition you. You know who I'm going to replace you with, and you know where I'm going to invest my work? In that little one back there on the floor. And in her 4 brothers and sisters. You know why? Because they'll believe anything you tell them. Over and over and over and over. It always bothered me when people would say, we can't allow women to teach adults in the church. I'm like, But 99% of the women are teaching who? Kids. If anybody got up in front, but if a woman got up in front of me and was teaching some stuff that wasn't right, I'd be going, excuse me. The Bible says, okay. So why are we worried about them? Some people worried about them teaching men, or teaching, men. I'm worried about them teaching my 5-year-old. Because they will believe anything they hear. If somebody's nice to them and loving and gives them candy and gives them hugs. See what the external stimuli does? Mom, Dad, we love our Sunday school teacher. Yeah, but they're teaching evolution, theistic evolution. Yeah, but they really love my kids. My kids love going there. See, we should worry about the influence of our kids. Why? Because you can talk them into anything. You can. You can't talk Randy into anything. Or me. As my wife says, I'm stubborn. Terribly stubborn. Sorry, I didn't tell the whole facts there. I'm terribly stubborn. Okay. So communists aren't going to waste any time on me. Either get rid of me or send me out to pasture and replace me with some new kids. I have conversations nowadays with my children who are 24 to 32, and some of the conversations I'm like, did you come out of my house? Do you know why? Because every one voice, like me, there's 500,000 telling them something opposite. So if you aren't investing in your kids and your grandkids, shame on you. Because somebody else will. Somebody else will. Okay? So you got to get rid of the home, the church. You got to get rid of the state. You got to get rid. We're moving to I'm in control, and that's it. Okay? Law, we've already talked about it. Whoever's in control makes a law, and for that time, that's the truth. That's what's legal. Now, if somebody comes along and revolts against me and wipes me out and replaces me as the new thesis, they get to make their own rules. So maybe I'm a benevolent communist, and I will let some home churches go on. But if I get taken out of power and somebody comes in, a really, really staunch atheist, and says, that's it, no more home churches. See, the truth has just changed. The truth is tied to the one in power. Okay? Now, let's look at politics. What is it, 801? 802 now, it just flipped. Okay, we'll be done here in a couple minutes. New World Order. We talked about this too. So the idea, you know how the idea is evolution is going to lead us at some point to perfection? So is communism. And this is where people go, we just haven't given it enough time. You know why they say that? Because most of the university and college professors are now secular or atheist. There's no room anymore for education and religion. Why? Because it keeps us tied to the past. We have to get rid of it and replace it. You are smart enough to run your own life. You don't need a God. Okay? So the New World Order says if we continue to do this dialectic, at some point, we're going to get a bourgeois that really understands and goes, we're not going to do this anymore. And then everything will be perfect. There will be no more need for revolt. Okay? That's what that is. And that's going to be global. That's not just going to be in one country. It's going to work itself all the way through. Okay? And there'll be one dictator in that. And the idea is that we will be able to evolve as humanity well enough that we get one perfect, it's probably going to be a guy, one perfect guy, and he's going to make it like heaven for us all. That's the goal. Economics, it's pure socialism. Do you guys know the difference between socialism and communism? Socialism moves to communism. Socialism regulates the means of production. Okay? When you move to communism, I own the means of production. So, in socialism, you guys own your farms, and I say, okay, you guys get to keep 30%, and you give me 70%. That way I can make it so there's no poor people. When communism comes in, it says, okay, now I take all your farms, and then I let you guys work for me. So I get all the farms harvest, and then I'll just give you a little bit. Maybe enough that you only have to stand in line for 3 hours instead of 6, because I'm good. Okay? That's the difference between socialism and communism. In communism, the government owns private property. Private property is actually what makes you evil. Because you get greedy, and you start protecting stuff, and you put locks on your homes and your cars, and you have to have insurance, and you have all that stuff. Well, see, poor people can't do it. See? Poor people can't go out and just pay cash for something, for a house, and then flip it and sell it. And it's because you're wicked and evil that you can even do that. You've probably taken that money from somebody wrongly. So that's how your private property. It makes you guys greedy. It makes you look down at the poor people and go, oh, yeah, I used to be like that. That's what it does. That's what they believe it does. So you got to wipe private property out. All right. Historical. We're going to do this. Last one. Historical materialism. History is a result of the dialectic at work through biological evolution, economics, and social order. They begin with eternal matter and a spontaneous generation. That's a beginning. And view history as a progression of biological and economic evolution, which will ultimately result in a society of communist man and a communist paradise. Humanity is merely the consequence of these impersonal happenings, but man is given a minor role to play, to nudge it along a little faster to its predetermined end. Now, do you see how dumb that sounds? Man is given some power to push it along to its predetermined end. It's evolution. It can't have a predetermined end. But this is what you need to know about philosophies. They all fall apart if they're autophagic, if they eat themselves. And this is another philosophy that eats itself. All right, we did it. We're 5 minutes, but we did it. All right, next week, I think I'm going to make an executive decision. We're going to do postmodernism next week and finish with that. All right? Lord bless you all. Have a great week.